This is the Hoka One One, or Hoka 11 Speedgoat 2. It's a trail shoe from Hoka, and it is specifically designed for the roughest, steepest terrain. It is one of the first Hoka shoes that I have tried on and been very impressed just with the initial fitment. So I have not run in it yet. This is an initial preview and some fit qualifications if you're interested in ordering the shoe. It's harder to find in retailers. I bought this one in REI online. The best thing about REI is you could say order 2 pairs, 2 different sizes, and return the size that doesn't fit properly. You could also order the size you like, run it for a while, and if you decide you don't like the shoe, you can return it to REI and buy another shoe that you do like. I would highly recommend buying anything, any running shoe from REI, including the Hoka One One Speedgoat 2. Now, a little bit about the shoe that attracted me to it. First is the outsole. It is a Vibram Mega Grip rubber. You'll notice it has very deep lugs, and if you just feel the rubber, it is a harder rubber, and it also actually is physically sticky to the touch. I have some climbing shoes with stickier rubber than this, but this is almost climbing shoe-esque in the sense that it has some stickiness just when you're rubbing it. I'll be very interested to run in it and see how well it does. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. We have some muddy trails, and this should do really, really well. It also, as you notice, has a very wide platform to give you a lot of stability. Now, things that I am surprised by. Number one, the toe box seems very nice to me. Now, I don't have excessively wide toes, and I don't have blister issues with my toes. It feels comparable to a Nike Wild Horse in the toe box. It's not quite as wide as a Nike Wild Horse, but very similar. If you wear a 10.5 in a Wild Horse, or most Nikes for the most part, you will wear a 10.5 in this. The fit feels very similar. The upper feels much better to me than previous Hokas I have worn. It feels very snug. It's not overly beefed up. There's no plastic counter around the back or anything like that, but it does feel sufficiently with you and supportive that I wouldn't find it to be an issue. Small things like the laces are just elastic enough. For some reason, I keep buying shoes that have very small laces that don't stretch at all, and it really bugs me and I have trouble tying them. These have great laces. And now for the key set off part, right? It has this hard outsole that's super grippy. Is that going to be an issue? Well, I can tell you right now, this is going to be one of the most cushioned trail shoes you're going to find, especially in a trail shoe that's designed for very rugged conditions. The sole on this, you can just pick the sole up and immediately know that compared to the Hoka One One Challenger, any of the models, this sole is just a lot more grippy, handling rocks and handling mud compared to that sole. But it has the same sort of really deep cushioning. You're going to be at 32 millimeters of heel cushioning, but the best part is it also has a lot of forefoot cushioning. So I bought shoes that have, say, 25 millimeters of cushioning, but have a 10 millimeter drop before, and you end up having with 15 millimeters just in the front, and it's very a lot less cushioning there, whereas this has a just under 5 millimeter drop. Actually, they claim 4.5 millimeters, so you can have 27.5 millimeters of cushioning in the front. And you can tell just by touching the material that it is a softer material than, say, the midsole on a Wild Horse shoe. I love this shoe, but I will say that on longer runs and on harder trails where it's not very technical, I find myself wearing a more cushioned regular running shoe instead of a trail shoe because the midsole on this is stiff. I can tell you right now, this is, in addition to having more cushioning as far as millimeters, it is a substantially more forgiving material. Now, whether or not that'll be responsive enough for me, I don't know. We'll have to take it out on a run. But just from my initial preview, you're going to size this pretty traditionally. You're not going to need to size up. 10.5 for me seems to be giving me the same amount of room in my feet as normal. It's sufficiently wide for me. Again, I'm not a person with very wide feet in my toes, so you will not find this as wide as an Ultra shoe, for sure. I can tell you that right now. And if you like Ultra shoes and you would prefer a very wide toe box, you're going to need the size up in this because it does not have a toe box like that. But for me, and I think most runners, that's not an issue.